Do you know your threes? When it comes to the path of sidereal astrology and specifically Vedic astrology, there are three sets of threes that I think are so important to spend the most time on, as I do in my course To the East. And I want to talk to you about those three sets of three today. Peace, my name is Stacy Patrice. Welcome back to my channel. So, first of all, three is a number that's been extremely captivating to me my entire life for several reasons that have nothing to do with this video, but are things that I pay attention to in nature. I pay attention to things that speak in threes, and maybe you do too. And one of the things that I find to be the most interesting is that in my first journey to Vedic astrology some time ago, one of the things I noticed were how many sets of threes there were. And I noticed this because they came from yoga. They came from yoga philosophy right over into my understanding of Vedic astrology. And there are three sets of threes that are really important to this journey that make what it is that you're learning feel very special and very connected. And I love a good holistic blend of whatever there is to learn, whatever there is to know. So the first thing that I would have to say is that when it comes to the threes, there are three areas of your chart that are most important. So you have the bhavas, and the bhavas are your houses. These are the houses that represent the domains in your life. These are the areas of living, of attention, of focus. These are the places, the areas that as you move through life, you will encounter. And it neatly collects all of the areas in life, including some of the modern areas that may not have been considered at the dawn of astrology, but are definitely a part of the context because these are very somewhat broad terms for what it is that we're looking at. And different astrologers have different interpretations of what belongs in what house. And that's the beautiful part of it to me is that it is open to your interpretation as you understand what those words and terms really mean. So it's really important to study the houses with deep intent so that you can really understand and almost lock in your mind where these things are going to go. So first the houses, the bhavas. Next we have the rashis, which are the signs. And the rashis are important because these are what I call the colors. The rashis are about the colors and the energy that happens in those particular houses, not just what the energy is of that house, but what energy is coloring that house. So, for instance, maybe you're familiar with the zodiac through your planets or, through watching other people, but it's really important to know what are the colors of each house. So, just the colors of each house. Then you have the grahas, which are the planets. And of course, the planets are going to show you the main characters that are shaping and helping you walk through your path, helping you to embrace or take on different qualities that give you the ability to walk through and order things in your life. They give you the divine assignments that you are given and how those change over time based on what's going on in the chart. That you may start off in one point of your life feeling like your life is about one thing, and then later in life feeling like it's completely something else. And the something else that it feels like may not be the true representation of how you've always known your life to be. But it might just be the movement of the planets that's giving you a different shape and understanding. So that's the first set of three. So you have the bhavas, the rashis, and the grahas. That is the houses, the signs, and the planets. First thing. Second thing that's really important to note is how those come together in terms of energy or quality, right? And so I did another video, and I'll go ahead and link that at the end of this video. I did a video about the gunas and the three gunas, which are like the energy that represents how something is happening. And so in that video, I talk about rajas, which is a very activating energy. I talk about Tamas, which is a very dense or fixed energy. And then I talk about Sattva, which is a very mutable or high level energy. Any of those sound familiar? Connecting to the qualities of the way we understand the forces in our chart. So if you've only looked at, cardinal, fixed, mutable in terms of signs, understand that these also apply to the houses as well as to the planets. So it is important to understand the energy of Rajas, Tamas, and Sattva, not just in your basic understanding of the signs. It's important to track those around the chart. And then we get to my favorite three, which is the one where you start cooking with gas. Yeah, you haven't cooked yet. You start cooking with gas when you understand my favorite three. And that is, for one, your understanding of the natural astrological chart. The natural astrological chart. That means starting at Aries and moving all the way through Pisces. Natural astrological chart, 1 through 12. How each of those is connected to planets and goes all the way around the chart. Very important to spend time here. Very important to spend time here. After you get done with that, then the next thing you'll need to do is look at your chart. So you have to understand the natural chart and what the map is. Then next you understand your chart. And your chart layers on top of the natural chart. You use the natural chart in order to start placing your layers on that chart. So now we're looking at your signs, your planets, and your distinctions through the houses. Right? So as soon as you start looking at that, now you're starting to get a different idea. So you're starting to look at those qualities, starting to look at the gunas, you're starting to look at, what each of these things represent and then what's there. And you start to massage your understanding of how it all works together, right? And the more that you study this, and this is the deep self-study part that I share in my course to the East, but then as you start to move on, you have to also understand the more advanced part, which is outside of your chart, outside of the natural chart, is what's going on at the sky. And this is why we practice sidereal astrology, because we want to know what's actually going on in the sky. We don't want another static map. We already have the natural map that is static. And then we put on top of that, a map that has more color, energy, understanding about who we are that feels very dynamic because that map actually has divisional maps, has 15 divisional maps that can further talk about that, right? You can get really deep into the dynamic qualities of your being and your path and your understanding and your walk, your purpose, right? But then we also have to pay attention to that sky map. And that sky map is what's happening right now, or later on when you look at it, or last year when you looked at it. That sky map is telling you, hey, whatever's going on in the sky is going to have certain interactions with those first two maps, certain significators, certain feelings, certain initiations, certain changes, certain energies, certain colors. And so you have to know what that is as well. And that is where you start to get like a third stack, right? And these are all like gears or cogs on top of each other. You have your original cog, which is your static map, which is the natural map. And then you have your map on top of it, which may or may not line up completely with the natural map and probably won't. And then you have the sky map on top of that, which is also maybe sometimes overlapping and aligning with your map and sometimes overlapping and aligning with the natural map, but still is its own map. So as all three of those are stacked, kind of like your favorite burger and all of its layers, all of its loveliness that you are ready to eat and dig into, these are the ways in which you're really checking and analyzing and studying yourself. And without these three sets of three, you are just kind of playing around, just kind of having basic conversations. Now, by the way, there's so much more than even those three of three. There's so much more, but I'm just highlighting the threes today because I love threes. And I'm highlighting just a few of the threes. There are also other threes, but these threes are my favorite threes. And they're my favorite threes because I realize that this is where the distinction and where the colors and the dynamism is really happening. It's really like pinning it all down into a formula. And that formula is what people understand as astrology, understand as prediction, understand as knowing oneself and studying oneself, and also is how people look at other people, right? So if you understand this and you have studied this about yourself, then it starts to come alive when you look at other charts, when you look at other times, and you start to go, oh, I can see how a person that's like this, or how I would have fared in this place, or this part of the world, or this time period, or during this upheaval and unrest, or during this future period that's coming that I'm looking at. You can start to really feel connected. And most people look at astrology on a topical level or ask someone to show them how to do this, which is great because learning how to do it is, learning to fish as opposed to someone giving you a fish and just saying this is what it is. So it's important to have a combination of both. You definitely need someone to give you a fish until you can get it. But at some point, you got to fish. And when it's time for you to fish, you're going to want to learn how all of these match together. You're going to want to learn it with your own personalized questions, your own personalized teacher, and your own personalized path. And that is something that individuals, such as myself, such as other teachers, such as other people who are teaching the significators, are very well versed in because we want you to get it. We want you to know it. Of course, I'm going to bring in a creative approach. I'm going to bring an approach that has something to do with the way that my mind sees systems and understands things. And that's what I do into the East. And so if you are interested into the East, you absolutely need to stay tuned because this week I am going to be dropping the opening of the next To the East course. I am halfway through with my first group here, and I'm going to open it up for those of you that would like to take it, didn't get a chance to do the first one, and open it up and give you a little bit of time, just a little bit of time and space to make a decision and hopefully, still have the ability to register by the time you find out about it. So stay tuned, keep paying attention. To the East is definitely a self-study as it suggests, specifically to sidereal astrology as it suggests, and switching from the Western mind state over to the Eastern. Even if you have already studied, there are still layers of depth that will be pinpointed as someone who consults with people about their charts to help you to see yourself in a new light. And I am so excited to be on that journey with you. So pay attention to the threes. If you don't know the threes, there is good answer for that. There is someone you know that you can work with on those threes and beyond. And I look forward to hearing about not only your own astrology journey, but how you may have curiosity or difference as it relates to the ways in which you have studied astrology in the past and are excited to continue and move forward as we move forward. And I thank you so much for listening. Please like, share, subscribe, comment, and go ahead and check out that video on the gunas. I think it would be very impactful for you to understand those qualities a little bit deeper and really start to understand that not only do they color your astrology journey, they cover your entire life. I look forward to seeing you in the comments. Leave me one. Let me know how it's going for you. All right. Peace.